What's going on with TikTok? Well, we're going to find out. Melissa Henson joins us. She is the vice president at the Parents Television and Media Council. The PTC is a nonprofit, nonpartisan research and education organization advocating for responsible entertainment. The mission of the PTC, and this is very important, warriors, is to protect children, families from graphic sex, violence, and profanity in the media because of their proven long term harmful effects. And the vision of the Parents Television and Media Council is to provide a safe and sound entertainment media environment for everybody, for the children, for the families across America. The website is parentstv.org. Melissa Henson, welcome back to the Warriors. You are a regular here, so welcome.
Thank you, Lynn.
You know, we're going to get into today, this is very important, that 14 states are suing TikTok over child harms. And you fully support this mission of keeping them, holding them accountable. But before we get into that, I want everybody to understand. Let's discuss TikTok a little bit. Describe the platform for those a bit in the dark, Melissa.
Sure. So TikTok is a short video platform for people to share content. And the way it's set up, and a lot of social media companies now are sort of trying to catch lightning in a bottle by following the format of TikTok. So YouTube has introduced YouTube Shorts. You can see Facebook and Instagram Reels, and it's all the same sort of thing, which is very short video clips, but then it automatically queues up and proceeds to the next video clip. And then when that's done, it automatically proceeds to the next video clip. And the content is curated to the individual user, and that's by design. And the intention is to keep the user locked on that platform for hours on end. So they're getting this sort of constant stream of content that they know the user likes and will engage with, and that will keep them addicted to that platform and on that platform so that they can generate more ad revenue.
Melissa, it's always about the bottom line. Money, 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 money. It's such a weak answer. I'm always giving out when people say, what's going on here? I'm like, it's money. But that is the reality. That is the truth. Now, let's get into now. I think this is very important about these 14 different states launching this new lawsuits just recently, a couple of days ago, actually last week, harming children. Specifically, Melissa, explain what's going on overall, but also they were very well aware, it seems, of all of this and still did nothing.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? And that is what we have seen repeatedly over the last several years is these companies know what they're doing. They have their own internal research that shows the harm, and they do nothing to mitigate the harm. And they go ahead and they roll out these platforms. They market them to young kids. They try to get kids addicted to the platforms, even though they are fully aware of the harm they're causing. We saw this during, whistleblower testimony in the Senate talking about Facebook. Facebook had its own data that showed that they make body image worse for girls. They had their own internal data showing that Facebook and Instagram use was linked to a higher rate of suicidal ideation and a whole host of mental health harms. They were aware of that and they did it anyhow. Same appears to be the case with TikTok. They had internal documents that reveal that they knew how addictive the platform was for young people, and they continue to push it out to young people anyhow.
Give us a little more about the meat of the lawsuit. What are they besides what you just described? Do you have any other breakdowns about it? I mean, I think it's so great that 14 states came together. I feel like more will sign on eventually or have separate lawsuits. But what else? Is it just basically the bottom line to make it easy for everybody to understand they knew this was going on, danger, harmful effects, and did nothing?
Yeah. So what they are saying, and this was a bipartisan coalition of attorneys general from several states, including New York, California, Kentucky, New Jersey. Complaints were filed in state courts. And basically what they're saying is that TikTok uses this powerful algorithm on their For You feed, which is content that's tailored to the individual user in order to keep children addicted to that platform and keep them sort of scrolling endlessly through their Facebook feed or their TikTok feeds.
I'm going to just digress for a second here. We're in New York City here, the Warriors. But we are right now working very hard in the state of New Jersey with age verification on all of these platforms. So I find it interesting that they're going after TikTok, but they're fighting us so hard about age verification and saying that, about privacy. It seems like, I don't even know what the word for this is, Melissa. This has been going on, right?
Yeah.
So, counter things going on. And I guess it is fair to say, would you agree, we really can't depend anymore on these big tech platforms to come forth and really step it up and do anything to protect kids and families and all people. We have given them time and time again, right, to do something. I feel like I hear the same argument. We don't have enough resources. We don't have enough man or woman power. What do you think about all of this?
Yeah. Well, I think the bottom line for us as parents, as people who care about the health and well-being of children, it's important for us to recognize that they will never, ever do the
Yes.
right thing when it comes to protecting kids. And you are really misplacing your trust when you put any kind of trust in these social media companies and social media platforms. They don't have your child's best interest at heart. They want your child because they're going to make money off of having your child addicted to their platform. And that's the bottom line. And that's what we all need to recognize, and why we all need to be very, very cautious about when we allow our kids to sign on to a social media platform, or when we decide to put a smartphone in the hands of our children, because we're really sort of playing into their their profit scheme. Their all your child is to them is a way to enhance their bottom line and to return value to their shareholders. And that's it. They're not interested in our children's well-being. And the proof of this, I think, comes from every time there is movement in Congress to pass legislation to keep kids safe online. Two things always happen. One is that all of a sudden, Facebook or Instagram or one of these other platforms will make some big announcement about something new that they've done in order to help keep kids safe online. They always had the ability to do that. They could have done it when they launched the platform. The fact that they waited until there was some congressional intervention to finally act is proof that they're not acting in good faith. And the other thing that always happens is they pour millions and millions of dollars into fear mongering in order to try to block any attempts at legislation. And we saw this just a couple of weeks ago over on the House side when the Kids Online Safety Act was supposed to be voted out of committee, went for markup hearing. Billions of dollars were invested in trying to block those efforts and basically strip all the teeth out of the House version of the Kids Online Safety Act. So they were able to convince lawmakers to remove the duty of care requirement that the Senate version of the Kids Online Safety Act included. They minimized the number of online harms that these platforms were supposed to help mitigate. So they really stripped the House version of the bill of all the meaningful provisions that would have helped make kids safe. And that was because of lobbyists. In fact, here in Washington, D.C., there was in the Washington Times, an ad supplement, like a 4-page full color ad supplement in the Washington Times. They got some very well-known politicians to sign on to pieces saying why COSA was a bad idea, why COSA would end up hurting kids, why COSA was destructive to freedom of speech. I mean, it's unbelievable the amount of money they're pouring into blocking it.
I don't even know where to start with this, Melissa. But if they took the manpower, if the resources, and switch that into just putting it, into the platforms to protect kids with this kind of minimal duty of care, right?
Yeah. Right.
Uh, it, I don't understand this tremendous pushback. And as you pointed out, all of this is bipartisan, right? There is tremendous sponsorship behind Kids Online Safety Act from both sides. And I really don't understand why, except I guess it has to be they're making so much money. But we have a very well documented youth mental health crisis in the United States. And I feel like, last week was Mental Health Awareness Week. Nobody was really talking about that too much in
Yeah.
correlation with all the platforms. So I'm not sure we're getting anywhere with all of this, but we're Kids Online Safety Act right now. This is at least 3+ years this has been going on.
Yeah.
Where do you think this stands right now? Do you have any insider info you can share with us?
Yeah, so the weakened version of the Kids Online Safety Act did pass out of committee, so now it goes to the floor for a vote. And my hope is, Congress is out of session until after the election, but my hope is that we can bring enough pressure to bear so that Speaker Mike Johnson will bring it to the floor for a vote, that it will pass even in this weakened form, because then they can hammer out the differences between the Senate version and the House version in conference, and they can hopefully restore some of that stronger language in conference and get a version that both chambers can agree to and get it passed during this legislative session. And if it doesn't pass during this legislative session, then come January, when they swear in a new Congress, everything has to, we reset the clock and everything has to start all over again.
Yikes, as we say here
Yeah.
at the Warriors. Yes, I want people to understand, the Warriors to understand, it starts all over again. It's not like things can just continue.
Yeah.
But actually, and we have to see, what's happening in the next few months. It could be very refreshing. We don't know yet. But you know what bothers me, Melissa, is that a lot of these things, I'm thinking of individual states. I mentioned New Jersey with age verification. They are pushing back so hard on this that it's an invasion of privacy. That's the bottom line for that. California recently with making anything with trying to purchase a child and all that a felony, because it wasn't,
Mhm.
sex trafficking in essence. The pushback was, okay, well, 15 and under will be a felony, 16 and 17. Those
Mhm.
teens have to prove that they were sex trafficked or human trafficked, which is impossible. And I
Mhm.
get the same reaction out of everybody about any of these things. Well, we'll take whatever they give us.
Mhm.
And I don't know about you, Melissa. I'm tired of saying that because it's
Yeah.
so harmful to our kids, our future adults, our future leaders, that we have to accept this. Well, we'll take whatever we can get. Yet I say it too, because I
Yeah.
figure we take it and then we'll just expand from there. We'll just keep hammering out. We'll keep working on it. But isn't that kind of a sorry thing that we have to say when all we're trying to do, so many of us, especially the work you're doing with the PTC, we're trying just to protect kids, right? What do
Yeah.
you have to say about any of that? I don't even know what there is to say about that. I just find it incredible that, that
Yeah.
we have to fight so hard.
Yeah, yeah, and you're absolutely right about that. And I think one of the most discouraging things about this is big tech has managed to get a lot of folks on the Hill to buy into this notion that if we do anything to try to protect kids from online harm, what's going to happen ultimately is the suppression of political expression and the suppression of unpopular political ideas. And that's just frankly ridiculous for a number of reasons. Not least of all is because Mark Zuckerberg has already come forward and said that, yes, Facebook was actively suppressing unpopular political ideas at the behest of the administration. So political censorship is already happening. COSA isn't going to make it worse. It's already there. What COSA is going to do, though, it's going to help prevent pedophiles and predators from reaching our kids. What COSA is going to do is block those messages that are advocating suicide and eating disorders from reaching our kids. It's going to prevent kids from being exposed to messages that are encouraging them to experiment with drugs or post pictures of themselves naked online. That's what COSA is going to prevent. It's not going to block political expression. That's already happening.
Yeah. And we're so tired of the burden has to fall all on the shoulders of parents and caregivers and kids, right? When everybody's so overwhelmed in today's environment. I just want to point out, that's I could laugh right now because I was accused this morning from Instagram, Melissa, of I was at an event we did in Times Square for Fentanyl Awareness Day. And I was with NYPD and I was with DEA and parents of children, and young people who died of fentanyl. So it was an open, event. It was back in July for Fentanyl Awareness Day. I woke up today and I got a message. We are taking this down because you are trying to buy, sell, or distribute drugs. That's
Oh
what they
my.
That's what, of course, I'm fighting
Yeah.
back, but no,
Yeah.
it was a picture of me at the event, standing next to NYPD and DEA. So I don't want to hear about this censorship stuff. There's like the wrong censorship going on for
Right.
everybody, kind of
Right.
thing. I don't understand with kids, like that should really be a little bit more with the censorship and nude images and
Yeah.
buying drugs with 2 clicks and all that type of thing. Where do you think the lawsuit? Do you think it'll have really legs? You think they'll fight it hard? Like, where do you think? In your opinion, do you think it'll really go somewhere and help all of us?
I certainly hope so. I think a lot will depend on, which district court it ends up in. If it ends up in a California court, it'll probably be thrown out. If it lands in a court that's a little bit more sympathetic to what's happening with our kids, then it may stand a good chance of proceeding. I think there's just too much that's unknown at this time. I hope other states will join in pressing this suit. So far, 14 states. I hope there will be many, many more that get involved. And if there is a majority of states involved, then I think it will be something that will be really difficult for the courts to, decline to hear.
Yeah, I don't know why, Melissa. I feel like in the new year, a couple of months from now, we're going to have a lot of very positive action.
I
I
hope
think
so.
I think it's going to be, people are going to, it's a new year, the election will be behind us. People will have a little bit of a break, and
Yeah.
then they're going to really get geared up one way or the other to really push on these issues. I always want to make sure, there is a lot of positive happening. The fact we're even talking about this, the fact there are 14 states, I believe it's going to go somewhere. The thing I always think about though, what about all the other platforms, Melissa?
Yeah.
Because they're also to blame, right? You just pointed out about Mark Zuckerberg. They admit these things. We have these hearings. There's a lot of noise, 1 or 2 days, maybe in mainstream media, a little bit online. Then it kind of just goes away,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Right.
Don't you think there's well, now I'm asking a lot, this overall with the big tech kind of
Yeah.
thing. Are you hearing anything about this Section 230? Or is that just out there?
Yeah, I mean, there has been a lot of discussion around Section 230 reform. I'm not aware of any bills that, are passed out of committee or ready to come to the floor for a vote in either chamber that I'm aware of. But I hope it is something that will move forward because what I think a lot of us recognize as parents is kids jump from one social media platform to another very, very quickly. And by the time the parents are clued in that there's a problem there and start to
Right.
do something, to put pressure on that platform to correct whatever the problem is, kids have already moved on to the next thing. So here we're still talking about Facebook. Most kids have already moved off of Facebook. They're on TikTok, they're on Snap, they're on Discord. So in a lot of ways, we're constantly playing catch up because our kids are
Right.
3 steps ahead of us when it comes to their preferred social platform of the moment. So we need something like Section 230 reform that will be more comprehensive and encompassing than something that is very targeted to a specific platform like the lawsuit against TikTok. That said, TikTok is still a hugely popular platform with kids, and this is still, I think, the right move at the right time.
I agree with you. And just so warriors out there know, Section 230 basically just says, these platforms are billboards, can't be held responsible for anything. They're a newsstand. They can't be held responsible, third party content. That is just sort of how I break it down and describe it. Well, I hope there's action since the internet was basically born in 1996. I don't think we've had anything since 1998 as far
Right.
as child safety. Now, think about that, Melissa. That is
Yeah.
laughable.
Yeah.
1998. That
Right.
seems like 100 years ago to me. I don't know about you, but that's just the 90s. That this is absolutely ridiculous. Well, I know parentstv.org, you have a wonderful blog where people can catch up on things, read. Um, Again, you mentioned the kids are, 3 steps ahead. I always say the predators are at least 10 steps ahead of
Yeah.
everybody. They're very smart and savvy. What else do you think right now, while everybody is busy and overwhelmed? Actually, we're going into holiday season, believe it or not. Um, I don't know about where you are in Washington, but I started seeing some Christmas. I'm going to say Christmas/holiday decorations going up around New York City. I don't know if you're seeing any of that, but it's like full press. We haven't even gotten to Halloween. But so what should we point out that parents, families should be looking at right now? Should they target something in particular, or just really trying to keep up every day, which is tough, on talking to the kids, seeing what platforms they're on? What do you think?
Yeah. Well, you and I talked a couple months ago about movements in many states to ban cell phones from the classrooms.
Oh, yes.
And I think that is an important step. And so, for your warriors that are in states who don't yet have classroom cell phone bans in place, I think that is really a critical piece of the puzzle to get schools and administrators on the same page. It doesn't mean that kids aren't still going to be able to access some of this stuff when they're out of school, but at least taking those devices out of their hands from 8 to 3 or whenever they're in school is going to be a big help. And help curb some of that problematic screen usage that is so closely tied to anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, and a whole host of other mental health problems that go along with kids being sort of chronically online. So, at the state and local level, do what you can to push for school-wide cell phone bans. I think would be an important step. And beyond that, also start pushing back on some of those extracurriculars. Because what I'm increasingly hearing, one mom was talking about the fact that there was supposed to be a group chat for her 13-year-old athlete, and it was only the kids and the coaches. The parents were not allowed to be part of that group
What?
chat. I know, because it was an important
What?
team
What?
building experience.
No, I'm
And the mom
sorry.
said, "Yeah, if
Stop it.
if if
Stop
I
it,
can't see
Melissa.
what's happening in these chats, my daughter's not gonna participate." So they removed her daughter, even though it's an important team building experience. Rather than have another set of adult eyes in the room, they just removed the daughter entirely. So we really need to push back on some of these extracurriculars and their expectations around kids and phones, or even the sports teams that require kids to, be on Instagram, and they want these kids to be mini influencers or something. I don't
Yes,
know,
they
but it's
do.
it's
They do.
ridiculous. Yeah,
Wow. I'm stuck on that, not allowing parents on a group chat, but
hmm
having coaches. That's ridiculous. I
yeah,
mean, I'm going to be looking into that one, because if you're bringing it up, that's probably going on all over the country. Parents probably aren't even aware, a lot of
yeah,
parents, that this is going on, and that is such a dangerous thing, right? No.
yeah.
That's I'm starting to get angry now, Melissa.
I'm
That is.
sorry.
Right, but no, but you know what? Because
Yeah,
all of this stuff, I mean, when did our children become the property of everybody else?
right,
And then when we try to do what is common sense, we are pushed back. It's against us or the parent. It's all upside down. I'm glad you brought up about the phone-free schools, getting that, because we know from reports from different schools, it's working out actually very well,
right.
that the kids eventually like that time
Yep,
away and to communicate, and the teachers are loving it more. So
yeah.
that's good. And also, I was reading, I don't know if you have anything to share about this alpha generation born in 2010 to now. These are babies. 2010, that was yesterday.
Mm.
They're really there are a few different studies bubbling up. They are rejecting a lot of the
Yes.
phone, the online, and
Yeah.
I don't know if you have anything to say about that. This makes my I'm so happy about this. What do
I'm
you have to say
thrilled.
about this?
I think it's
Me
fantastic.
too. We're Yeah, I mean, I really think the pendulum is definitely
Yeah,
swinging. We see all these harms. We have proof of the harms. It's out of control. Getting phones out of the schools. Kids are doing better. It can't sustain that way. It is
right.
swinging back. So when I started reading and hearing about the alpha generation, or Gen Alpha, whatever it's called, one or the other, I'm like, wow. So they're basically, they could be 12, 13, 14, born in this. And this is terrific news. We have to continue on that path. Weigh in anything you want to share about AI. I was talking with somebody who works at Microsoft on Saturday in the AI department. And
Mm.
so, of course, I had 50 million questions for her. Um, and I broke it down to, she said, well, we're trying to hire, because I'm like, that information AI, because
Mm.
schools in New York, I don't know about around you, Melissa, schools in New York City are encouraging students to use AI.
Oh,
I know,
yeah.
but I heard it also about New Jersey and Connecticut as well. So it gives time for pause when I hear that. I don't like it personally, but this is what they're encouraging kids to do. We know they're already using AI, right? But
Yeah.
I asked this employee of Microsoft, I said, where does that AI information, because it can come from one side, the other side. And she said, well, I said, so how are you handling that at Microsoft? And she says to me, well, we're trying to find neutral people as employees.
Mm,
I said, well, I think that's a tough one. Kind of let it go with that. And I said, well, what about, the kids using all of this AI and what it will do? And this is a younger person, I will say. And they said to me, well, people push back against computers. No, first she said they push back against the radio, they push back against TVs, computers. So they're just going to have to get used to AI.
mm,
And this is the employee of Microsoft. And I just kind of let it go from there because I'm like,
mm.
I'm not going to get anything really out of this to go anywhere. But I think that's very concerning, where that information comes from in AI. I don't know. Have you ever tested it? Because I've tested it with different things to see what it comes back with.
Yeah. 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 In fact, somebody shared with me just recently that they put into an AI search engine, they put the question, did Jane Austen know Mary Shelley? And the AI answer was, yes, they knew each other because they had the same mother, Mary Wollstonecraft. Now, the source that they were citing, and I went and read the article that
Yeah.
AI was pulling this information from an article that said that Mary Wollstonecraft was the intellectual mother of Jane Austen, but of course not the biological mother, but that's not the information that was communicated in AI. So I think we have to still be very, very wary and very, very careful of AI, not least of all
Yes.
because of, and this is an issue I know Senator Ted Cruz is trying to address with some legislation. There are other bills that are pending in both chambers having to deal with AI generated revenge porn.
Mhm.
There have been
Yes.
stories of kids in California taking the faces of classmates and putting those faces on AI generated pornographic images and then circulating those images. I know this also happened with Taylor Swift and some other celebrities. There are a whole host of not merely misinformation, disinformation, inaccurate information that you can get from AI, but also a whole host of just really problematic legal and ethical issues that come along with it as well. I mean, even if you use AI to generate images, those images are, they're lifted from somebody else's intellectual property. Um, so AI is not capable of being creative. So everything that is coming from AI is somebody else's work, somebody else's intellectual property. And so there's just a whole host of legal and ethical issues that are going to have to be figured out.
Well, we're going to leave that one for a minute because we're still trying to get the Kids Online Safety Act to go
Yeah,
somewhere.
right.
Give us some final thoughts,
Yeah.
because I think this really is, I don't know if exciting is the right word, but having the 14 states recognizing, bringing a lawsuit harms. I feel like, Melissa, every single day, we can't let up for a minute. We have to keep on all these topics, subjects, keep educating the public, making everybody really work on becoming a warrior in their own home and community. Leave us with a final thought
Oh,
or three.
that's a very
That's a big
open-ended
loaded
question.
that's a big loaded question. I know, but there's so much to talk
Yeah,
about all the time,
yeah,
and there's so many different issues. And I always say it's that wheel with a lot of spokes that makes that
yeah,
whole wheel go around. But we always want to try to make it easy, right, for
right.
parents to deal with, because the worst I don't want, and I know you don't want them being so burdened, they just slam the
Yeah,
door. They don't want to know about any of this because that's where the vulnerability sets in for our kids. That's where the predators step right in, and they're doing a very good job. We have to admit that that's the reality, and we cannot allow this.
right. Yeah, I would start off by saying we can't lose hope and we can't get discouraged, even when we suffer setbacks in the political sphere or particular bill that we were hoping would pass doesn't get passed or um, It seems like the bad actors get away with murder and nobody ever gets held accountable. But I think it's important to remain hopeful, and keep pushing. The changes may be
Yeah.
smaller or more incremental than we would like, but a small change is better than no change, and no change is what you get if you sit down and just throw up your hands and say, "I give up. There's nothing I can do." So let's push for those incremental changes, even if it's not everything we want. Um, Over time, those little changes will add up.
Excellent, because our Warriors hashtag is community creates change. We firmly believe, like you're saying, we have to just keep going at it, take what we get, work from there with all
Yep.
of this. And Melissa Henson, I mean, you and the Parents Television and Media Council, you're doing just this all the time. I want everybody, you know where to go, parentstv.org, follow the blog, resources also on Twitter at the PTC. Melissa, thank you for being our media warrior, joining us once again to break down about the lawsuit. I'm going to have everything in the body of the video so people can take their time, read along, and really become warriors on this issue. And I want to just say thank you. Thank you on behalf of all of us, the work you do for children and families. It is exactly what is needed. And you are such a warrior. Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you, Lynn.